Trudeau's Liberal government was in secret talks with the CBC during the last election campaign about, quote, trusted news and disinformation. The state broadcaster, the Heritage Ministry, Global Affairs, and the Privy Council office were all in talks about, quote, trusted news right in the middle of the last election campaign. And as you'll recall from that election campaign, trusted news organizations are the kind that sue conservatives right before it's time to vote, like the CBC did. In bizarro CBC land, trusted news organizations are the kind that report the same liberal-friendly things that the CBC does, whereas so-called untrustworthy media organizations like the one I work for, well, they ask tough questions of the Liberals and provide the supporting source documents to back up anything we say. CBC deciding what is trusted news is just CBC using the power of the federal government to silence its competitors and justify its failing existence because nobody watches CBC anymore. The news about these secret communications comes to us in the form of an order paper response to a question asked by Alberta Conservative MP Chris Warkentin. Warkentin asked, with regard to communication between the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation and the government, with the exception of media inquiries, so these are emails for the purposes of interviews or comment, did anyone in the government receive any communication from the CBC during the 2019 writ period? And if so, what are the details of such communication? Including date, sender, recipients, subject matter, summary of contents, and what are the details of any correspondence or briefing materials which have been provided to the Privy Council office, the Office of the Prime Minister, or the Department of Canadian Heritage regarding the CBC since September 11th, 2019, including the specifics such as date, sender, recipient, subject matter, file number, etc. On September 9th, right as the election campaign kicked off, Sean Poulter at the CBC was in direct contact with Ian McGowan at the Privy Council office. So those are the chief bureaucrats working around Justin Trudeau. McGowan is the deputy secretary to the cabinet for the Privy Council office. Here's the email listed in the order paper response. September 9th, the subject matter was FYI Trusted News Charter to Fight Disinformation. CBC Radio Canada joins Global Charter to Fight Disinformation. Then on September 10th, from the very same sender, Sean Poulter, to Ian McGowan, and now Alan Sutherland, the Assistant Secretary to the Cabinet for the Privy Council. FYI, Trusted News Charter to Fight Disinformation, our President's acceptance to chair a global task force for public media. On September 11th, Sean Poulter communicated with Hilary Humphrey from the Ministry of Canadian Heritage regarding that global task force on public media. On September 20th, Lillian Lee at the CBC was requesting a meeting with Eric Bertram from Global Affairs Canada about CBC Radio Canada and trusted media. December 5th, 2019, a senior manager with CBC Radio Canada, that's Lillian Lee, again, sent an email to David Hendricks, a senior analyst with the Department of Canadian Heritage, to provide a document on the overview of the current state of the media landscape in Canada. And then, of course, there are the emails from the CBC asking for more money outside of their already determined budget to cover the election and get a resource leg up on their private sector competitors. We start on page 6. All this talk of special warrants comes up. That's more money outside of the CBC's allocated budget. September 11th, 2019, someone from CBC is asking if, quote, we need special warrants. Now, for context, this is the very next day after that first meeting with Heritage about putting together a trusted news charter on behalf of the government. September 19th, responding to questions on special warrants. This is one day before the email to discuss CBC Radio Canada and trusted media. Then on October 9th, there are 2 more back and forth emails about special warrants. There's an email from Lillian Lee at the CBC to David Hendricks at the Ministry of Canadian Heritage about a financial flexibility question regarding the, quote, status of our ask. October 18th, there are 3 more emails about these special warrants, and there are a handful more throughout these documents. That's a neat little pipeline the CBC has directly into the Privy Council office. They work with the government to discredit their competitors in the middle of an election campaign and then ask the government for more money to do it. Secret communications with the Privy Council office, Global Affairs Canada, and Heritage Canada, all while they're supposed to be reporting the unbiased news. You just can't trust the CBC to tell you the truth about Trudeau's Liberals. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunreid. We're going on a cruise to Alaska July 4th, and you can come too to get all the details, to see the ship, and to take a look at some of our incredible guest speakers. Go to rebelnewscruise.com.